My memories of Wayne. It was in June, yet Galbadinian I had just transferred from the VA in Jacksonville, Florida, to South Florida, to be closer to my late father. He resided in Hollywood, Florida, during the in-processing Wayne first appeared, as he was working in the deportation section of the Immigration and Naturalization Service, at the Chrome Processing Center. We met there, and became fast friends. He immersed me with his stories of treasure hunting, and even showed me his finds: coins, gold, nuggets, watches, rings, bracelets, necklaces. He promised to show me how to use a metal detector, and the first Saturday I had off, I was also working a second job, and attending college 3 nights a week, at Homestead Air Force Base. I remember our first metal detecting trip to the MacArthur Causeway in Miami. We walked along the beach, and Wayne, with his earphones on, within minutes, found a coin. He then let me use his detector, showed me how to use it, what to listen for, and soon I started out on my own. Within minutes, I could hear the buzzing in my earphones, and Wayne came running over to me, and with a scoop he revealed where the sound was coming from, and bingo, a nickel appeared. I was hooked on treasure hunting. To that day, when I would visit his home, it was always cluttered with assorted junk in the living room, and Wayne's mom would always give me a painting, even some pennies she had saved. Wayne and I would sometimes go out to it in the Olive Garden, and numerous times, with Kent, we would go out to a late lunch in Wayne's favorite restaurant, about 2 blocks from his home, or to Burger King. The first time Wayne, myself and Kent went to Cayman Brac was in, I believe, 1994, where we did some treasure hunting along the beach, only to find a portable strongbox that once had treasure, but it was already empty. A friend of Wayne, who found a motel in Cayman Brac, had her teenage daughter walk with us on the beach, and this young teen found a shiny gold coin. Using only her naked eye, we were all taken aback by the teen's ability to find things. We heard from our mutual friend Ello in Cayman Brac about a young man who had never been to formal school, yet had a very high IQ, and who with his metal detector had found 2 pure bars of gold on White Beach. We went over to his home, met him and his mother, and he showed us the bars of gold, definitely from a parrot treasure, and worth at the time about 25,000 美元a piece. Returning to Miami, Wayne and I got together as often as possible. Wayne was very multi-talented. He could sing well, play the guitar well, and at parties held by the employees of the Immigration and Nationalization Service, he was the height of the party, invigorating, refreshing, and enjoyable to be with. Wayne had a way with jokes. He could be an Irishman in one instance, a Jewish rabbi in another, and what he said, although sometimes sounding offensive, the way he said it made you want to laugh your sides off. Many times we would sit in his home and talk about many things, but it always ended up with the talk of treasure hunting, and his dream to go to Oregon and Montana and pan for gold. In fact, he had this dream of selling his home and moving to the western part of the United States, even after he had his kidney transplant, and it was a vibrant dream. He disliked Miami, and felt, if he moved out west, he would add years to his life. When I told Wayne I was going to marry a Filipina I met in California, Wayne thought I lost my mind, yet I pushed the papers through, and Nellie came in from the Philippines in March, yet and within 2 weeks, we were married, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. Wayne took to Nellie like a fish takes to water. Nellie, Kent, and Bonnie became his inner circle of best friends, people he could rely on, count on, and ones that truly loved him for the good heart he had in himself. in mid-Elgobag-Basablok. After being married only a few months, we decided to go to Cayman Brac again. So Kent, Wayne and I flew there on Cayman Airways, and we were met by our friend Elo, who had a taxi business there. She invited us to dinner at her house, so we rented a car, which Wayne drove, on the left side, like they do in Britain, and went to her house. Thereafter dinner, she told us the story of her family buried treasure, and we all decided we would go to the burnt-out dwelling at midnight that evening, with our metal detectors, shovels, and flashlights. We went in Elo's station wagon, and parked behind some big trees. We all started to dig, but found big rocks, which had to be removed. The metal detectors were literally screaming that something was down there, so we kept digging. We were down to the last big rock, when a Cayman Brac police car came up the road. We doused the lights, and got down onto the ground. The police left the area, and Wayne started to say, "Let's get out of here," but Kent, I and Elo, said it is only one more rock, then the treasure. But Wayne played hard to get, so we put all the tools and metal detectors back into Elo's station wagon, and left the area, and she took us to our motel. The next day Wayne met a Cayman Brac woman by the name of Olive, and literally forgot Kent and I, so we talked how inattentive Wayne was to his friends, to spend time with that woman instead, and finally made a decision to leave the following morning for Miami. Several days earlier, we used an excuses that I had to get back to Nellie, and Kent wasn't feeling very good too. Wayne, Kent and I stayed up all night, and I fished, and finally ended up catching a nice-sized fish, which we cut up and cleaned and ate in the morning. As we were preparing to leave, Wayne decided he wanted to leave too, so we all got to the makeshift airport, changed our flight date and flew out in the late afternoon. Another thing I remember about Wayne was his interest in photography. While in the Cayman Islands, he found a way to go up to one of the highest peaks there to take photos of the area. It was only he and his photography equipment. His friends seemed to be the furthest thing from his mind. Then he came to Key West, stayed several days with his then girlfriend Jean. Nellie and I took them around. We had a nice cookout in the backyard of our rented home, and that was early in Elgobag-Basablok, before I retired and went to live in the Philippines. Wayne was a bit of everything. He got to you because he was all heart and soul, but he had his days when he was as stubborn as a stone wall and wouldn't listen to reason. I remember Wayne for the joy he gave all of us just by being present with and around us. He could take away your blues in an instant, and could be so insistent on some things that you wondered if he was losing his thought process. To Nellie and I, the loss of Wayne is like losing the brother I never had. We can never forget him, nor the help he gave me in the Philippines in writing one of my manuscripts, with additional characters that I myself couldn't think of. His advice on taking this medication and that, was like he was a doctor, very well-meaning, and very concerned, especially when he heard I had type 2 diabetes, and the pains in my knees, legs, back and shoulders. He was a true friend, and the memories written here are just a few of so many. May his memory always live in the hearts of his friends, who loved him for what he truly was, a wonderful person, emerged with human frailties and faults, but still a friend we loved and shall never forget.
The Lady Who Heals, copyright 1998 by Wayne W. Wadowski, lyrics and music composition by same author. The day I met her, I could tell her future would be bright and true. It rang in my soul just like a bell, her healing ways through and through. Larissa, oh Larissa, lady from Ukraine, whose desire is to banish all suffering and pain.